What is going on, guys? So today we are doing the Dallas Cowboys Week 8 matchup. It's Sunday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, before I get started, I want to remind y'all to smash that subscribe button for some more daily Dallas Cowboys content. And I wanted to bring up a couple of things. One, people keep asking me about the Madden content that y'all want, mostly just the where I go through and simulate the season, and that's definitely coming. I was planning on doing it this week or next week, but I saw Week 10's our bye week, so it'll probably be after the Steelers game next week, and I'll probably just do it during the bye week. That makes the most sense, so it'll have more content coming out during the bye week. Now, the only other thing I wanted to say is one of my best friends, Derek, is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I'm working on bringing him in on the channel this week for a collab before Sunday, so hopefully that'll be like a second preview, and hopefully that's something that's going to happen. I know he is back in school right now, so we'll see what we can do, but I look forward to potentially bringing him on. Now let's go and jump into the game where, guys, I got to be honest, I'm a little more intrigued in this Cowboys team this week than I was a week ago, and one of the reasons why is Zach Martin returning, Chidobe Awuzie returning, some of the moves we've made throughout the week, cutting guys, trading some, Everson Griffen, for example, and Ben DiNucci kind of intrigues me. So I'm not saying that I'm optimistic about a win. I'm just saying I kind of feel okay about this game. Like, I think it could be fun and not miserable to watch like some of these games have been as Cowboys fans. Now, I do have some notes with some injury news on my phone, so I'm going to bring that up. So, for mostly Eagles, because they got a lot of stuff going on with injuries as we have in the past. Jason Peters is supposed to be back this week, right? So, he's going to play some left tackle, some right guard, and he's played both this season. And I do want to say that he has struggled a little bit at left tackle this year, and he's given up 3 sacks. That team in general has given up like almost 30 sacks this year. So, that's part of the problem with Carson Wentz. A lot of people wonder why he's struggling so badly this year. I think he has 10 picks, 10 interceptions, but that's on 58% completion percentage, which just isn't great. So he's having one of the worst years of his career. One of the things is that he just hasn't been able to stay healthy for consecutive seasons throughout his career, right? And that's an issue when you're trying to get better as a quarterback. But another thing is the offensive line has not been healthy for them, kind of like us. They've had very similar problems in Philly. And he hasn't had the weapons that we've had this year. Alshon Jeffrey's been hurt. Deshaun Jackson's out for the year. He's on the, I believe, out for the year. He's on the IR. He might return later in the season. Jalen Reagor has been injured throughout the year. Marquise Goodwin was an offseason hiring, I believe, and he's been missed the whole entire season. So they really have lacked talent at wide receiver, and we'll get into more depth with that here in a little bit. But let's look at some more notes. I put Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor are back in practice, unsure if they'll play much. So that's one of those things. I mean, when I'm talking about if the Dallas Cowboys have a legitimate chance of winning the game this week, that's one of the things we're going to have to look at. I mean, is if Jalen Reagor is going to play, if Alshon Jeffrey is possibly going to play. He's listed as day-to-day, but he is eligible as of now to return to practice. I'm recording this video on Thursday. I'm not sure if he'll practice on Thursday or not. And Dallas Goedert's another one because they're weak at tight end as well with Zach Ertz on the IR. Now, they did bring in Hakeem Butler, and they have a couple other guys performing, but we'll get to that. Next, Lane Johnson, Miles Sanders, Malik Jackson. I already mentioned Alshon Jeffrey. They're all listed as day-to-day. So I'm pretty sure that Lane Johnson and Miles Sanders are probably not going to play this week. I believe the Eagles have a bye week, week 9 next week. So it probably behooves them to let Lane Johnson get that extra week off, maybe even Miles Sanders. And that would definitely behoove the Cowboys because Lane Johnson's backup. I have his name written down somewhere over here. It's Jordan Mailata. He would likely start at right tackle if Lane Johnson can't go. And it's going to be a tough matchup for him with Tank Lawrence. I mean, there's no doubt. DeMarcus Lawrence has kind of stepped it up a little bit. He's starting to grade out pretty well. He's starting to get more and more pressures each week. So I'd like for him to be able to take advantage of a matchup like that. And that would leave 2 out of three of the Eagles' best starters on the offensive line out. They still have Jason Kels. They're getting Jason Peters back, but is it Jason Kels and Jason Peters? Maybe. But Brandon Brooks is out. I believe he's out for the year. I think he's on the IR. And if Lane Johnson doesn't play, that's a big deal. So the guy that I just mentioned is it Mailata. He's given up 3 sacks as well this season. So each guy on that offensive line has given up their fair share of sacks. And I want to point out that Jason Kels is another guy who has given up 3 sacks this year. So he's been really good in run protection, but he hasn't done a great job at protecting Carson Wentz. He does not grade out very well in pass protection. Next, we're going to see... And also, if Miles Sanders doesn't go, I put that Boston Scott is likely to be the starter. And I guess it's Corey Clement. I don't know if it's Clement or Clement. But he's the backup. He's a big guy, 6 foot, 220, more of a power back. And Boston Scott is a little smaller, shiftier. I think he's only like 5'6", and better pass catching back. So I did notice that throughout the season he's been their best pass catcher as far as running back goes. I did mention that Deshaun Jackson's on the IR, so that's another comment about just how weak their receiver core really is, especially if Jalen Reagor doesn't play, right? So I have their starters at tight end and receiver. So Hakeem Butler from the Arizona Cardinals, they drafted him in the 4th round last year. He's been brought in, a former receiver. He's been brought in to transition over to tight end. Not sure how many snaps he's gotten so far this season, but big, strong receiver. I mean, he was like 6'5", 230, 240 playing wide receiver. They also have Jason Kroom and Richard Rodgers at the tight end position. I know Richard Rodgers is a name we're pretty familiar with. I believe he started his career in Green Bay, but he's played with the Eagles for a couple of years now. The receiver core, Travis Fulgham, who I don't know too much about. I believe he went to Old Dominion University, but he's rates out pretty good. I mean, he grades as a good wide receiver. He's had a pretty solid year. Just kind of been thrown into the fire with all these injuries. Their second receiver would be J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and their slot receiver is Greg Ward. So, and I know they have a couple other guys in depth. I don't really know their names, but I could say that they're one of the least talented teams we played this year offensively with all these injuries, assuming some of these other guys like Goddard, Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey don't play. Now, I put Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, and I believe they have Derek Barnett on the other side. I mean, they still got a really tough front four, and I forget the name. I believe it's Javon Hargrove at defensive tackle would be their second defensive tackle if Malik Jackson isn't available. So, I mean, they got some depth there on defensive line, and they're going to be tough. I mean, Fletcher Cox is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. He gets after the quarterback. He's good at stopping the run. And Brandon Graham's a little older, I believe, but, I mean, he could still play. And maybe he's not. Maybe I got that one mixed up. Maybe Fletcher's the older one of the two. But really good defensive line. They're very weak at the linebacker position. I know they send a lot of blitzes, and they've had success blitzing linebackers and cornerbacks, but their linebackers just aren't good. And to be completely honest, I can't name one off the top of my head. I think Duke Riley might start on one side, but I mean they're really weak at the linebacker position. So hopefully that's something we could take advantage of, right? The defensive line is still going to be a struggle, but man, if we could protect Ben DiNucci, who I'll talk about here in a little bit, and just give him a chance, give Zeke a chance, then who knows? Because, like I said, linebacker struggle. So if we can get into that second level and even into the secondary, then I think we may find some success. Now, another thing I pointed out is that their secondary is very strong, and safeties are okay. They have solid starting safeties, nothing to go crazy about. But they grade higher than our safeties. I'll say that. Now, Darius Slay is the big contract that they brought in this offseason from the Detroit Lions. Now, we know him from the Lions last year when he shut down Amari Cooper. I think he held him to like 3 catches, 30-something yards. And he's a premier defensive back in the NFL. Now, this season, he does not grade out that good, especially on PFF. They have him graded like below the top 25 in defensive backs. I think that's a little misleading. I think he's still really good. They have some depth there. I think Cravon LeBlanc, another guy, I'm forgetting names here, but they have a pretty solid secondary. So, it'll be interesting to see how it will match up with the Cowboys, even though we've been struggling. Amari Cooper has been able to get his the past 2 weeks. Is he going to struggle against Darius Slay in Philadelphia? Because we know historically he struggles in away games with us. That's what's going to be interesting to see. It sounds like Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb are probably going to have to step up. I know they've been struggling a little bit the past couple of weeks. They're going to have to step up and have a big game for us to see some sustainable success. Now, I think the only other thing I wrote down notes-wise is a couple Cowboys notes. One is the obvious. I just didn't want to forget it, that we cut Dontari Poe. It sounds like due to weight issues this week, and as well as Daryl Worley. And I think with him, it's just because he moves his hips like a 90-year-old man. I mean, he just hasn't been able to keep up. He's been slow at defensive back. I think he looked a little bit better at safety, but I guess we saw him as a cornerback, and he just wasn't very good at it. He kept getting burned week in and week out. Dontari Poe, regardless of what kind of shape he was in, sounds like he came in this season 30 pounds overweight at 380 pounds. That's pretty close to 400 pounds. So one of the bigger, if not the biggest defensive tackles in the league this year. And he just hasn't been producing. Hasn't performed since week 1. I can't think of one good game for Dontari Poe this year. So I'm kind of happy that we moved on to a different direction, and other guys will get the chance, right? So Justin Hamilton will definitely get more snaps. I'm not sure if we're going to start him or Neville Gallimore, but this is going to be good for Gallimore's growth. Even if he's struggling this year, it'll help him next year and the year after that as he starts to become an NFL caliber defensive tackle. And that's what we really need heading into next year in the next couple of years. So we get Tristan Hill back next year, and hopefully he hasn't regressed, and maybe Gallimore performs, and maybe we have 2 starting defensive tackles right there, and we add one more guy and starting to look good. So I know we talked about potentially bringing in Gerald McCoy, bringing him back next year, assuming he recovers well from his season-ending injury. So if we have a Gallimore who looks decent, Tristan Hill, who established himself as a starter, and Gerald McCoy comes back next year, and you think maybe you have something there, defensive tackle. So it's a little, I guess, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's one step in the right direction to get rid of some of that dead weight. We know we traded Everson Griffin to the Lions, and I'm okay with that. Randy Gregory's back, and I kept saying I wouldn't be surprised if we cut Everson Griffin when Gregory returned, and we basically did, but we got a little bit of value. So maybe a 6th or 5th round pick in 2021 instead of just cutting him outright. So that was good to see. And also, I think it sends a message to the rest of the team that you put out there that, hey, we're either going to trade Daryl Worley and Dontari Poe, or we're going to cut him. And that proves no trade value. So we cut him. And other guys get a chance to step up now. At the other side, at defensive end, you have Aldon Smith, who's been performing pretty much all year. We have Randy Gregory, who's back, and I hope he starts to get more snaps this week because he didn't get a lot against Washington. And Dorrance Armstrong's another guy. So we have plenty of depth there at defensive end. And we have Bradley and I backing up DeMarcus Lawrence on the other end. So it's not like losing Everson Griffin is really going to hurt us, even though he did start playing a little better the past couple of weeks. He had a sack last week against Washington, but I'm still kind of glad we moved a different direction. And the only other thing I put was our injury updates. So it looks like Andy Dalton is definitely going to miss the game. I haven't seen anything official, but he hasn't practiced throughout the week, concussion protocol. So I'm assuming he's not going to play, and Ben DiNucci is going to get the start. I'll talk about him in a minute. Zach Martin and Chidobe Awuzie are returning. So that's one thing that gives me a little bit of hope this week, right? I mean, Dale Worley was pretty bad last week, and he's been pretty bad all season. Chidobe Awuzie is our best defensive back. I'm not saying he's all world, but he's outplayed Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown and Daryl Worley for sure. So having him replace Daryl Worley in that position, I think will give that secondary a much needed boost. Now, I know that Xavier Woods has missed practice. It's non-injury related. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know if he's going to play. I'm assuming he is, but I don't really have much to comment about because I don't know what the situation is. The other one is Zach Martin, and him being back is a very big deal, especially for Ben DiNucci, because he might give us a chance on that offensive line. Last week, without Zach Martin, we saw offensive line just fell apart, and Dalton got destroyed back there. And then Ben DiNucci went in, and he did as well. So bringing Zach Martin back, and I'm assuming Looney isn't going to play this week. I've heard it's not a definitely thing, but he likely won't play until next week against Pittsburgh. So I'm assuming we're going to put Zach Martin in his natural position at right guard. Maybe when Looney returns, we'll move Martin over to right tackle, play Looney at right guard. But for now, I'm thinking Zach Martin's going to be a right guard. Steele will be a right tackle, but hopefully Martin can help him some. Biotish at center, Connor Williams at left guard, and Cam Irving at left tackle. So it should be a little bit better this week on the offensive line than it was last week. I'm not saying it's going to be great, but if anything, is the defensive line in Philadelphia that much better than Washington's? No, I don't think so. Washington has a very talented defensive line, and the fact that we're adding Zach Martin back is a very good thing. Finally have a leader back on the offensive line, so it's a big deal in my opinion. Make sure I didn't miss anything else. No, I put Joe Looney probably misses the game. Xavier Woods, non-injury related. So next I'll just get into a little bit quarterback with Ben DiNucci, and then I'll just give my thoughts. So with Ben DiNucci, I really like what I see out of the kid. We haven't seen much, but good college player. He came in last week and he flashed a little bit. And I just like everything I hear about him. I was on Law Nation's channel listening to him talk about how Ben DiNucci just shows a little moxie. And in the face of adversity, we need guys like that, especially at the quarterback position. Andy Dalton, we know, kind of struggles under pressure, and DiNucci's going to be under pressure, but he brings a little more athleticism to the table. He's got that quick release, which Dalton does as well, but he kind of does that, and this was what Law was talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree. He kind of turns his hips and has that quick sidearm release. He mentioned how Romo used to do it, and I loved Romo's release. Stafford does it sometimes, and I'm excited to see what we have with Ben DiNucci. I think it's definitely a step up from Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush. Although Cooper Rush did show a little bit a couple years back in the preseason, I think he just started seeing ghosts, and we kind of ruined him, whether it was coaching or he just never improved. I don't know what it is. But excited to see Ben DiNucci with Zach Martin back, with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz out there, Ezekiel Elliott. We assume he's due for a big game. I'm not saying it's going to be against the Eagles, but one of these days it's going to click, and we'll be able to use some of these offensive weapons, right? And hopefully Ben DiNucci will be the guy that did it. You could see last week he found that little bit of chemistry with Amari Cooper on the 32-yard pass, but that was the one play we got to see. Didn't have much to work with. Got sacked a lot, but didn't play a ton. So there's not a ton of film yet on Ben DiNucci. I like how he looks in the pocket. Probably needs to work on his footwork a little bit, but I think as he gains confidence, that'll naturally just get a little better week in, week out. We don't know if he's going to play next week or if Dalton will return, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, as far as the Eagles game goes, I'm still going to predict the Eagles are probably going to win this one, and I think we'll put up more than 10 points this week. I'll say 14 to. No, I'll give us more than 14. Let me think. 17-31 is going to be my guess, and I really hope I'm wrong, because I think this is one game where we could step up. Maybe the guys want it a little more after they saw some of their teammates get cut or traded this week, a couple guys coming back, maybe they'll just want it a little more, because I think there's a wide margin where we could look like a much better football team if we just get a couple things together. But, it's easier said than done. So until I see otherwise, I'm going to pick a team like the Eagles to beat us. But I hope I'm wrong. And I'll continue to say it. I'm watching every game each week, cheering for the Cowboys. I'm not being negative. I'm just calling it as I see it. And as of now, I still don't think we're a good football team, but I do like some of the moves we made throughout the week. Guys, that's pretty much it. Do me a favor and leave me a comment giving your thoughts, your opinions. I know Cowboys fans, I know everybody's got a very strong opinion. Some people are pretty down right now, kind of like I am. Some people are a lot more down about the team than I am. But I know a lot of people are also very positive, and they're like, hey, man, be a little more positive, have a little more hope, have a little more faith in the team, and I definitely like to. So let's give me something this Sunday for Sunday Night Football to have a little bit of faith about, right? That's going to do it. I'm out. Peace.